Ladies and gentlemen, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Our national anthem represents the beauty, pride, strength, and resilience of Jamaica and our people. My name is Agent Sasko. Please stand as we honor Jamaica, our culture, and our history.
You may be seated. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Senator the Honorable Obin Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Mr. Fitz-Jackson, Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern. Dr. Damien King, Recycling Partners of Jamaica, Chairman and other board members. Mr. Gary Taylor, General Manager, Recycling Partners of Jamaica, and other members of staff. Executive heads of public and private sector organizations and other stakeholders. Members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen all, good afternoon. What a pleasure it is for me to be here this afternoon to share with you this official opening of the Naggo recycling plant of Recycling Partners of Jamaica. I got lost coming here, I must admit, but I'm sure I was not the only one. I made a right about turn and realized I was going the same way that I had been before. I think I was heading to Lake Spen. But I'm happy to be here and really very delighted to be able to share this wonderful occasion. I'm told that this facility, the building, started somewhere in June. And where are we now? December. So I believe we did this in record time because they have also been testing and doing all of their preliminary operations and so since October. So I think we should start off by giving RPJ a round of applause. This is indeed a major milestone. And someone once said that there is no such thing as throw away. You don't throw away anything because it has to go somewhere. My grandmother would put it another way. She would say, "Wa you dash way, no wash way." You've heard that saying before? "Wa you dash way, no wash way." It ends up somewhere. So even if you're up in the hills, it's going to end up on my beach. Yes? And so this is such an important activity. And it's not just, it's important for so many reasons. It is an economic activity as well. but it's also our efforts at sustainability and how we can reduce our carbon footprint. It's also about the reduction of greenhouse gases. It's about preventing pollution. It's about conserving our natural resources on which we rely so heavily. And it's also about creating economic opportunities. And increasingly, those economic opportunities are presenting themselves to Jamaicans all across. Incentivizing, I think that has made such a difference. And I can feel it, I see it. I'm myself an advocate, and I also make sure I have my 3 bins, one for my compost, one for my regular garbage, and one for my plastics. And I suggest that if you have not already started, if you're not yet a disciple, you just join the line. So again, a pleasure it is for me to be here. I want to welcome each and every one. All here, I'm sure, have played some part, and we celebrate you today. Our chairman of the board is here, Dr. Damien King. I know he's quite excited and he's very passionate about what he does. So I'd like for you to put your hands together and make Dr. Damien King welcome as he brings the chairman's address. Dr. King.
The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Mr. Fitzjackson, Member of Parliament, Mr. Gary Taylor, General Manager of Recycling Partners of Jamaica, members of RPJ's Board of Directors, members of the Board of Directors of our members of RPJ, Wisinco, Pepsi, Grace Kennedy, Lasco, Coalfield, SM Jalil, ladies, gentlemen, Simon Roberts. That has exhausted all the time I was allotted, so thank you very much. You know, I find it amusing when people stand up and say, all protocols observed, when you literally just saw them not observe the protocols. How does that work? I mean, I like the idea in principle, and I'm going to apply it. So, come January, Prime Minister, all taxes paid. Now, you see, we can't just assert that all the bottles have been collected. We have to actually collect the bottles. It's a journey. We're on a journey. Actually, we're on many journeys. As Jimmy Cliff said, we have many rivers to cross. One journey is geographical. From South Negril Point to Moran Point, we have to be collecting all of the bottles. Personally, we need to visit the beaches, the gullies, the sidewalks, and try to get all of the bottles that are already out there, out of all of those areas and into a recycling partners depot. We do this by collecting some of them ourselves, and we do this by supporting other organizations when they do their cleanups. Another journey is the logistical journey. To build out the infrastructure that we need to be able to collect all the bottles that we need to collect. We have established 7 collection depots. We now have access to 31 trucks. And we have placed island-wide over 500 cages for people to contribute bottles. Our capital expenditure this year has topped $280 million. there's a third aspect to our journey, and it is quantitative. We need to make sure that we are collecting all of the bottles, and each year to make sure we collect more than the previous year. Finally. So, if you look at this journey in terms of just trying every year to collect more than the previous year, if you go back just before the pandemic, we were collecting around 7% of the bottles that are produced and sold into the market. We could only go up from there, except we went down because of the pandemic. So down we went. Once we recovered from the pandemic, then we started on our upward trajectory. But upward is not linear, you know. It's a rocky road. But as long as the trend is up, this year we really, put it into gear. And we have been able to raise our collection rate as of the last few months to 30% of the bottles that have been put into the marketplace. And if you look at how this stacks up internationally, not too shabby. This is actually representative because the global average is 27%. We're already above the global average. And this understates what we've achieved in the last 5 years because the market keeps expanding. So we are collecting 30% of a larger volume. 5 years ago, we collected around 60 million bottles. And I want you to think about what a tremendous logistical exercise it is to collect 60 million bottles. This year, over the last 12 months, we have collected 278 million bottles, taking them off the street. I would like, with no disrespect to the private businesses present, I'm not sure which private business has expanded its volume by 4.5 times in 5 years. Don't put up your hands. But the final journey, it's a series of journeys. The final journey is not about counting bottles. It's emotional. We are building a movement. This is about who we are as a people. And we see it in the pride that Jamaicans take in their communities. We see it in how we are proud of our big little country. So this is a journey that goes through public education to harness that national pride into a movement that is going to take our journey from those who just want to recycle because they know it's the right thing to do, extending that through those who are more easily convinced, until even those who are reluctant can't help but go along with the majority, until we get everybody in on this journey. And it becomes something for which Jamaica is known. It becomes something that as a nation we can take pride in. So today's official opening represents a milestone on all 4 of these journeys. I guess we can call upon Jimmy Cliff again and say, paraphrasing, we can do this if we really want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. King. Yes, you can get it if you really want. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for the statistics. I certainly know that from an emotional perspective, we do have quite a bit of that going on, where just in everyday interactions, you actually feel that people are getting the message finally, and they are coming on board. They're joining you on this journey. Mr. Gary Taylor is the hardworking general manager here at Recycling Partners of Jamaica, and I know in the last couple of months he has been exceptionally busy as making sure that today is a reality. I'd like for you to put your hands together and make him welcome as he comes at this time. The way forward.
Thank you, everyone. Damien, that's a very hard presentation to follow, but I will try. Good afternoon, everyone. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator the Honorable Auburn Hill, Minister with our portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the Honorable Matthew Samudo, Member of Parliament, South St. Catherine Southern, Fitz-Jackson, our partners, members of the board, thank you and welcome to Naggo Head Depot. Today marks a significant moment in our journey towards a greener, more sustainable Jamaica as we gather to celebrate the opening of the Naggo Head Depot. Our success thus far is a result of the collective efforts and unwavering commitment of the RPJ team, backed by the support of our industry partners, Coalfield, Grace, Lasco, Pepsi, Seprod, SM Jalil, and Wisinco. And the JMEA, who provide us with crucial data to monitor and report on our progress. Over the past 12 months, Damon said it, we have seen a significant growth in our collection of plastic bottles and our infrastructure. We have also seen an increase in independent plastic bottle collectors. Those are the persons who collect the black plastics and sells it back to us. As well as schools registered for recycling. We have made recycling more accessible to communities across Jamaica and fostered a more widespread adoption of responsible plastic disposal practices. Despite having significant setbacks over the last couple of years, we have done the difficult groundwork, and today's official opening of Naggo Head represents a major milestone. With this investment, our processing capacity and potential to collect and export plastic recyclables have significantly increased, and our efforts have now shifted towards recycling or reaching our recovery goal of 85% over the coming years. There's also been an increase in environmental awareness and public support for recycling. While we currently pay a financial incentive of $50 per kilogram for bottles redeemed, over the last year, approximately 20% of the plastic RPJ collected were from donations. We believe that the public will continue to support our efforts once we continue to build convenient, well-run collection points and infrastructure to process and export the bottles. To this end, we have already started the construction of 5 new locations, depot locations across the islands, all set to be completed and fully operational by August 2024. This will generate employment opportunities for close to 100 individuals, including managers, supervisors, technicians, drivers, laborers, contract workers, and it will also create other economic and entrepreneurial activities in those locations. Simultaneously, we have identified and procured additional balers, trucks, compactors, and other equipment to support these locations. This substantial investment will cost us close to $300 million over the next 6 to 8 months, and will provide us with infrastructure to process between 50 to 60% of the beverage industry's plastic bottles monthly. To increase convenience and sustainability and to boost overall system efficiency, we are also now in the process of engaging a consultant to develop a second layer of community recycling partner centers. These will operate as for-profit social enterprises independent of RPJ to collect, bail, pay for and bail plastic, which RPJ will then buy back. As we aim to create an ecosystem around recycling, essentially converting plastic bottles into earnings. In addition to community recycling centers, we'll continue to increase the installation of our cages across the island through partnerships with service centers, schools, hotels, housing developments, churches, government buildings, and other corporate entities, as we aim to once again increase the convenience and public awareness. The work of RPJ is an excellent model of public-private sector partnership, not just with the government, but also with the people of Jamaica, working together to create solutions that will help foster national pride and promote a cleaner, safer, healthier Jamaica. In closing, RPJ has developed the technical ability and management capacity combined with the financial backing and will of the beverage industry to make this vision a reality in ensuing years. We are indeed on a path to solving a significant issue facing our society of plastic waste management. We want to thank the government for its continued support and patience. Now more than ever, we will rely on your support to build RPJ's tremendous momentum. We look forward to continuing working in partnership with the GOJ and its various ministries and agencies towards our ambitious goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. And we did hear that there were 7 collection depots already. And now we know somewhere next year, maybe around August, we should have another 5, which will again increase the capacity. And that's a good thing. I believe we will have more trucks. We have 31 now, and we will have more trucks. We have 500 cages in different places between, service stations, schools, communities all over the place. And we hear that we're going to be increasing those as well. So it means that we're on that momentum. It's a snowball effect. And we're going to make the most of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor, for giving us an insight in what lies ahead. Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda is with us, and he will bring remarks at this time. Put your hands together and make him welcome.
Most Honourable Prime Minister Andrew Holness, colleague Cabinet Minister Aubin Hill, MP Fitz Jackson, Chairman of the Board of RPJ, board members, consortium members, staff members of RPJ, and all well-wishers. It is indeed a pleasure to join you this afternoon. Today is a good day for Jamaica's journey towards sustainability. And it's a good day because it started with notification this morning that notable environmental organization acknowledged Jamaica's standards for forestry stewardship. Only country in the Caribbean to receive that. We received that this morning by formal cable. We moved on from there and I looked at a watershed that has been restored by Water Resources Authority on my way to St. James. In St. James, we commissioned 300,000 gallons of secondary storage in the community of Adelphi, creating significantly more water resilience for the community there and benefiting over 30,000 persons. We moved on and headed here, and now for me this is a bit nostalgic because in 2009 I ran a recycling factory and our points of greatest collection were actually in Naggo, Brayton and Hellshot at the time. We had the cheapest factory space we could find at the time, which was in the Factories Corporation complex in 3 Mile. So this was a very easy point from which to collect and to reduce your trucking going over to that side. So it was very interesting coming to the launch of a recycling processing facility in Naggo, where about 15 years ago we used to be over here, and when we were short staff, we'd have to help load the trucks. So I'm very happy to be here. It's an important day for Jamaica. And it's important for a number of reasons. Jamaica has been on the journey to achieve sustainability, and plastics and our waste management has been very topical for a very long time. And in many ways, though sometimes we don't think of it that way, Jamaica has led the journey, has led the charge in trying to achieve that sustainability, has certainly led the charge with policy reforms when we compare ourselves to our Caribbean neighbors. Sometimes we don't feel that way, and as Dr. King would have said, it's an emotional journey. Every time you see a pile of waste somewhere, you don't necessarily understand that an effort this Herculean is being undertaken. You don't understand that you have moved from 5 to 6% to over 30% of bottles being produced, being collected. But where does that place us? What does that mean for us domestically, and what does that mean for us internationally? Well, let's start internationally. Last year, May, the world came together at the United Nations Environmental Assembly in Kenya. There was an agreement with no objecting parties to create an international negotiating committee to start the development of a global plastics treaty. Now, Jamaica has played a role in regional coordination in this regard and is likely to host that international negotiating committee next year, June, ahead of target completion date of end of 2025 for this treaty. But what is this treaty targeting? This treaty, as it stands now, looks to penalize countries that do not collect and recycle 70% of its plastics waste. That will be the headline discussed. Now, with all of these treaties, there will be hundreds of pages, and they'll be multi-layered in the varying other issues in terms of thickness and where you source it and how you get it and who should get access to virgin plastic, who shouldn't. All of those things will be contemplated. But ultimately, the globe is saying that we need to collect and recycle over 70% of our plastics waste. Now, the rest of the world, and certainly much of the region, will have to play catch-up after it signs that. So similarly to the Paris Agreement, as it relates to climate change, you make an agreement, and then people spend the next 10 years trying to figure out how to bring it to life. The difference is, because of the partnership that would have started, I believe, in 2014, 2015, with Recycling Partners Jamaica and the government, because of the renewed, strengthened, and significantly increased commitment of the private sector to this program, Jamaica will be well on its way to implement, not just ratify, but implement the terms of that treaty long before the rest of the region. Ultimately, there is an element of business sustainability in it. When Jamaica signs, you'll have dates by which you have to meet particular standards. If we're ahead of those, then our manufacturing industry will not be impacted in the way that other countries will be impacted by this. So this is incredibly important. That's the non-emotional side. That's just Jamaica's standing in the world, and that is where we need to be. But this treaty will call for other things, some that Jamaica is already moving on. Later in the fiscal year, we will table regulations for the removal of microplastics from our personal care products. Now, that is a very small component, weight-wise, of our total plastics waste. But that is another thing that this treaty will call for. And we will be 2 to 3 years ahead in ensuring that these microbead plastics that are in your face soaps, are in deodorants, are not entering our wastewater stream, which there is no sewage system globally that can pull this out. So that is another thing that we're targeting, and we will complete before the end of the government's, not the calendar year, but certainly the government's fiscal year. The final point for contemplation, though, has to be that post-COVID, one of the consequences of having a viral illness like COVID is that plastics usage, because of the singularity of its use, actually increased globally. So Jamaica, for instance, would have had 15% of its waste stream being plastics about 10 years ago. That's closer to 21% now. Now, that's not unique to Jamaica, but it is a point of contemplation. Now, a lot of that, as we know, would be increases in consumption of beverages in the plastic bottle. So it's incredibly important that this rate of increase in collecting our bottles, processing our bottles, and shipping these bottles, or eventually, as we said, and as I know you intend to do, we get that circularity in our economy and we generally get back to the repelletizing, or certainly use locally for other issues. That can't be understated. 22% is not where you want to be in terms of your total waste stream and your plastics. That's even above the standards you'd need for the calorific content for waste for energy. So we do have some work to do in looking at those areas. The other area that we'll remove, and we've said previously, is plastic lunchboxes. We've created a policy which removed styrofoam, but we did create a loophole which allows for plastic lunchboxes. That's not where the country needs to be, and we are taking the steps to develop those regulations. But again, I want to close just in thanking the private sector for taking the moral leadership, the economic leadership on this matter, because ultimately it is something that if we hadn't done would have been imposed upon us. And ultimately, Jamaica must see itself as a leader. Jamaica must continue to be a leader in regional environmental efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Samuda. And you have reiterated the importance of the public-private partnership that Mr. Taylor spoke about earlier on. And I do believe it's an opportune time to just salute those private sector companies that are represented here this afternoon. I believe there's Wisynco, Seprod, Lasco, Grace, Pepsi-Cola Jamaica, SM Jalil Company Limited, and Coalfield Manufacturing. And these companies are all a part of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. And I'd like for us to just give them a round of applause for the role that they continue to play. I invite you at this time to turn your attention to the screen for a short video presentation. Welcome to our journey towards a greener future at the new Naggo Head Recycling Depot. Our new, improved plant is set to double our baling capacity and ability to increase our collection efforts due to the automation of some of our processes, resulting in greater efficiency. Today, we proudly showcase Recycling Partners of Jamaica's new recycling facilities and our continued commitment to putting plastic in its place. Recycling Partners of Jamaica is a charitable organization that continues to build and support national awareness of the need to recycle. Today, we celebrate a groundbreaking moment in Jamaica's pursuit of sustainability, a giant leap towards a greener, cleaner Jamaica.
At Recycling Partners of Jamaica, our mandate is to collect plastic bottles from the environment and to keep plastic bottles out of it. And we are working with businesses, schools, and every Jamaican citizen to achieve that goal. This facility represents a milestone in our mission to, as we say, put plastic in its place. It's not just a structure, it's a symbol of Jamaica's commitment to responsible plastic waste management.
The Naggo Head Depot will serve as a crucial hub for processing the majority of plastics we collect annually. Approximately 2/3 of the millions of pounds of plastic we collect from various sources across the island through both donations and our deposit return scheme will find its way here, where it will undergo a meticulous process, starting from sorting of each bottle by color and type.
As our trucks roll in, delivering bottles of all shapes, colors, and sizes to our depot, the bottles are first weighed before they go through the sorting process. Our dedicated team pre-sorts these bottles by color and type, preparing them for the next phase. Witness the efficiency unfold as sorted bottles move along our conveyor system. Ascending the belt, the bottles enter our new conveying system that transports them into a rotating drum known as the trommel, automating the previous tedious manual process of removing debris and small unwanted elements from the bottles. As the impurities are sifted away, the bottles progress to a sorting line. Here, a second round of sorting takes place, ensuring that only the selected bottles move forward for baling. Continuing their journey, the bottles travel along the conveyor system to the storage hopper. From here, they are automatically fed into two separate large capacity balers, once again replacing a manual process, that of loading these machines. The automated process continues as the bottles are compacted, tied, and transformed into neatly packaged bales, ready for export. It takes approximately an hour to complete each bale, and once done, they are stacked and stored, poised to embark on their journey to a new purpose. We export 600,000 to 900,000 pounds per month to South, Central, and North American recycling facilities. Our commitment to recycling extends beyond our borders, contributing to a global effort to reduce plastic waste and protect the environment.
Here on our island, each bale represents a testament to our dedication, our commitment to sustainability, and preserving the beauty of this paradise for generations to come.
We're not just managing plastic. Join us as we shape a better future for our Jamaica.
At Naggo Head, we're transforming into a sustainable future. Together, we will put plastic in its place.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring to the lectern the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Thank you, Marlene. I stand on the protocols established by Dr. Damian King. As your government tackles the many issues that we face, we see the challenge of waste management as critical to the development of the country. As I sat and listened to the presentations, and I looked at the wonderful video presentation made, and as it came to an end, and obviously the drone shot was zooming out from this lovely facility, you could see at the bottom end garbage strewn around the verge of the road. And whilst I would not be able to say definitively, it is highly likely that most of that was plastic. It says a lot that even as we are trying to do this here, just outside there is the challenge. And I wondered, what is my role in all of this? I mean, obviously, I have the policy, you know, I have to make policy, and I have to see to it that the policy is executed. But I'm also a consumer. I wonder to myself, how many plastic bottles do I use per day? You want to just do your quick back of the envelope check right there? I mean, I know that I probably use about 2 plastic bottles per day, on average. Mostly water, maybe juice. But if I did that just on average for a week, and then for 52 weeks, and then let's say I'm the average person, and you multiply that by about 2.8 million Jamaicans, probably more, in addition to, you know, the 4 million tourists that visit. We're talking about billions of plastic bottles. I hope you see the magnitude of the problem. But the problem did not just emerge on us by itself. The problem is as a result of our consumption choice, which creates a pattern. And therein lies the ultimate solution. So before I move to commend our business partners in Jamaica and commend the recycling partners and commend all the stakeholders, let me commend to every single Jamaican your social responsibility to manage your own waste, particularly plastic. Every one of us here has a duty to either lessen our consumption of plastic or be more responsible in our consumption of plastics. Recently, I announced that the government of Jamaica will be taking certain instrumental actions to treat with this business of waste management. I mentioned that we will be privatizing garbage collection. In my budget presentation, I indicated that we will, in following on the actions that we have already taken, Minister Samuda would have mentioned some of them, that we will be moving to have institutionalized the separation of garbage. I'm putting it in a very euphemistic way, because I know whenever I put these things out into the public domain, I'm going to get something to say, clarify what you mean, Mr. Prime Minister. And my job is obviously to stimulate public debate and to get people to think. The challenge with our society is that every idea becomes almost a conflict and a contest. In other words, people tend not to look at the value of what is said and examine it for that, but immediately to say, how is this going to affect my position? And resist change rather than to embrace the possibility that something good may come of a new idea. Having set that context for what I'm about to say, it is important to the work that is being done here that it is supported by the public effort of being responsible in the management and disposal of waste. And the government can aid in this, and we will aid in this by, one, we will be making a special budget allocation for a public education campaign to support the proper disposal of waste, in particular plastics, and that will be very much a line item in the next budget. But the government will also start to develop the legislation necessary for the enforcement of the separation of waste. Now, we have been working on waste separation for some time. There are some communities through various initiatives. I recall our development partners in the Japanese, in the World Bank, and so forth, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. They have started some specialized and specific programs with various communities to start the separation of waste in those communities. So we have done some pilot projects in the country before. The next step for the government is to, by policy now, by policy, to direct that all government entities must separate and have a plan to recycle their waste. So we're going to start this public thrust by giving a directive to the government. So all government entities, and we can be clear so that I'm not called upon to clarify anything, I'm speaking now of ministries, agencies, and departments. That would also include our schools. They're a government entity. It would include, for example, our police stations. Those are government entities. All government entities will be directed, and this would also include statutory bodies as well, to implement, and we will set the standards as to what they should be doing, separation of waste and a plan to recycle. And we will give that definitive, I'd announced it before, so it's not new. So people would have had time. We have actually done all the work internally to implement it. But we will start the implementation at the beginning of the next fiscal year, because there might be some budgetary allocations necessary. Persons would have to acquire new garbage bins for separation. They would have to identify spaces in their entities and so forth. So that is a definitive action that the government will take as a step towards a national regulatory platform for the separation of waste, particularly for the identification and proper sequestration of plastics. I see a lot of nods, but no claps. I understand. Remember, the camera is not going to see the nods, but the... But this is not new for us in terms of taking these kinds of steps. Remember, we are probably still one of the few countries in the region to have put on a ban on single-use plastics. Someone said to me, Prime Minister, that hasn't helped any really, because I'm still seeing waste. But if you look at the profile of the waste, it has changed. The profile of the waste has certainly changed. And this initiative that we're going to do next will again change the profile of the waste, but I'm certain it will have an impact on the volume of waste for which the recycling partners would be more interested in as a metric of progress. Now, I wanted to say a little bit about the initiative of the recycling partners. I was at a town hall, a virtual town hall, a few weeks ago, last week. I had a visit to Washington, and whenever I travel, I try to engage the Jamaican diaspora. And a member of the diaspora pointed out to me that she listened to my presentation regarding the privatization of garbage collection. And immediately the response she felt was that, you know, privatizing something like garbage collection will not be a good thing. And I understood where she was coming from, because the core of the Jamaican being is a sense of fairness, of equity. And if you privatize something, then it means that only those who can pay for it will get it. Once it falls into private hands, it becomes a merit. And that merit may not be fair, because some people may have more money than others, and therefore that's the only reason why they merit it. So there's a sense that, well, maybe poor communities that are not paying or can't pay won't have their garbage collected, or maybe a poor household, the garbage truck would drive past that household and only those people who can pay will have their garbage collected. Instinctively, there is this sense whenever we speak of a service that is considered to be a public good, a public service, that it should not be provided by private enterprise. It is not just that instinctive reaction to garbage collection. It is a reaction to, if you were to say, you know, we may have to privatize the delivery and provision and production of water, for example. But Minister Samuda and Minister Hill were not in the cabinet of Jamaica in 2008, 2009. When a proposal came for the privatization of the Port of Kingston. And I could tell you, not to take tails out of cabinet, but I can tell you that it was stridently opposed by some persons, because it was very difficult to move from the position, this is our national asset and it must be held by the government and must be operated by the government. Because there is that national pride. But look at the Port of Kingston today. We haven't given up the sovereign ownership of the port. But we could not, the government of Jamaica, could not operate the port as efficiently and make the investments as timely and to the magnitude that is required as the current operators. What I'm trying to say to, and I don't need to say it to the people who are here, you understand it very well, but to others who may be of the view that somehow by engaging private enterprise, we diminish the value and protection of the poor, dispossessed, or vulnerable. I'm here to say to you that I would never allow anyone, particularly those Jamaicans who are vulnerable or who are poor, to be deprived of a service, particularly a service that is deemed to be a public good, because they couldn't pay for it. No. In fact, the strategy of bringing in private enterprise, not necessarily to own, but more so to operate and bring innovation, efficiency, and capital, ultimately increases the service that is provided, both in terms of the number of persons who could access it, the quality of the service, and the consistency and reliability of the service. Because as a consumer, that is what you want. You want your garbage to be collected on time and properly done. And you want it to be properly disposed of. Governments don't generally do a good job of this. And there is a good reason. I'm not going to go into it. I will invite my professor, Professor King, to come and explain, why governments don't do a good job in operating enterprises. And one of the main reasons is that there's no incentive to innovate. There is no incentive to, I hate to say take risks because it is going to be misinterpreted, but there is no incentive to be entrepreneurial and to innovate, right? You get punished if you make a mistake, but you're not rewarded if you do well. That's just the nature of public service. And if you're trying to deliver services at scale where everybody can benefit, you need an enterprising person to say, all right, this is how I'm going to make a profit. That's not a bad thing. But this is also how I'm going to deliver service. And then the role of the government becomes to set the standard of service that is needed, and then to hold the service provider to that service. Because in such a divestment as the one that we are contemplating for the collection of garbage, it will be the government that pays. It is not you, the consumer, who is going to pay individually for each time the garbage truck comes to your house. It's the government that will pay. Presently, the government does pay for it. Remember now, we are the ones who told you that we are buying, we bought, what was it, Minister, 50 trucks the other day, and we have another 50 coming. So yes, we are trying to expand the service, but we know that in the long term, governments don't do a good job of operating rolling stock, which is effectively what your trucks are, the fleet management. Governments don't do a particularly good job in those areas. So you really need an enterprise whose business it is. They have the technical expertise to do this, to manage that. And then what government must do is to manage the expectations. You set the service levels, and if they don't meet them, they don't get paid. And that will be built into a solid contract. So I want to assure persons whose instinctive response is to be resistant and to say, oh no, something is wrong there. Just look at all the privatizations that we have done so far and how it has benefited the country. So what we're celebrating here today, which is the opening of this lovely facility and the expansion in your capabilities to collect, is as a result of enlightened private sector partners who are all producers of plastics. All of them mentioned. I don't have the names here. You mentioned them. I don't want to call someone and leave out others, but all plastic, well, it's not all, but the major plastic producers, importers of plastics, and those who mold the plastic bottles here, have come together to what I would call a social enterprise. That's effectively what it is. But you're operating it on business principles. But the objective is to maximize a social objective. You want to maximize the collection of plastic bottles. So the notion that private enterprise is only there to make a profit is not I mean, look, the capitalist motive will always exist. But businesses are becoming far more sophisticated in their understanding that they cannot make a profit while destroying the environment. That the assets that they account for on their balance sheets are not just financial or real estate, but they have to also account for what we call natural assets. And we have to pay attention not just to local public goods, but to global public goods like our climate. And therefore, the governance of businesses are now changing to incorporate in their governance procedures what is called ESG. Environmental considerations, social considerations, and governance considerations. So yes, they all want to make the biggest bottom line, but they recognize. I am not here saying that every single entrepreneur, every single business person, every single billionaire, that's how they think. But I'm saying that it is clear that the business people who are here, who are producers of plastics, recognize that the product that they sell has what the economists call an externality. And they have to account for that externality. They have to figure out a way to correct it. And this is one way. So they have developed an enterprise. They have funded the enterprise. My understanding is that you internally levy a certain fee on the plastics, and that those funds go toward all of what we see here, which is the establishment of this major depot, the purchase of the trucks for collection, in addition to the establishment of outpost depots, and the staff that you have here who will, aside from taking in the plastic, will crush or reduce it in some way, and I suspect it is shipped. You haven't found a way to reduce them here. But all of that operation is funded through the private fee that is levied internally. So the public should be aware of this, that there are many models in which private enterprise contributes to public good. And the role of government is first of all to acknowledge and understand that government, where the private sector can do the job more efficiently, has developed the skills, and has the capital and wherewithal, government should step back and strengthen its role as a regulator to ensure that the service is actually delivered properly, rather than stand in the space trying to deliver the service and regulate itself. What usually happens is that the regulatory role is weakened, but the service delivery role is not improved. So who gets the short end of the stick proverbially is the consumer. And so there are many areas in which government needs to step back, allow private enterprise to come in, but strengthen its regulatory capabilities. And I think that is the model that we will have to be pursuing, not just for waste management, but for many other things. Now, what we see happen with this, when we unleash the private sector, is that immediately you see an expansion in employment. There is a view that once you turn something over to the private sector, you're going to see a kind of restructuring and staff may be cut. Clearly, if you hand over a service that's not properly running and is overstaffed, then maybe that's what needs to be done. But usually, in the long term, what happens is that the service becomes more efficient, it expands, and in effect, more people get employed, but the service is more sustainable. That has been our experience. Now, Jamaica is developing a very solid model for privatization. We call it PPPs, public-private partnerships. And you're going to see more PPPs come on stream. And this is a very critical part of Jamaica's growth and expansion. So, starting in the next fiscal year, the actual process of divesting the garbage collection will begin. It will take some time for it to be done because there would be significant contracting arrangements. So we expect that within 2 years that should be completed. And then after that, you should see a sustainable improvement in our garbage collection. Now that is just, 1/3 of the problem. Another third of the problem is, where do we store our garbage? Right now, we don't have any landfills. We have 2 or 3 main areas where we dump stuff, and we dump dirt over it. The chief being the Riverton City dump. It's not a landfill. And we have already identified a location where we will build a sanitary landfill. And quite a bit of work has been done around that. And then the other third of the problem is, finally, what do we do with the waste? So we're going to collect the waste off the street. What should go into a landfill will go to a landfill. But what we can reduce and recycle, we're contemplating waste to energy. So in other words, how do we make the waste the feedstock for another production activity for which there is value to be consumed, which would be moving it from waste, transforming it into energy. That activity will be quite expensive. We are studying it very carefully. It could have fiscal implications. In fact, all of this would have fiscal implications. Fiscal implications, what does that mean? It means that it will have implications for the government's revenues and the amount that we would have to pay to the service providers and who would ultimately pay. So whatever we do, we don't want whatever we do to increase taxes. That's not what we want to do. We have to be very careful in managing the taxation for the country. But as we improve these public services, there could very well be fiscal implications, such as, for example, property taxes. The question is, are the property taxes that we are now paying sufficient to deliver the services that we want? And there's a strong argument to say, I'm paying my property tax, but I'm not getting the service. And I would be very sympathetic to that point of view. But I would, without having all the facts before me as I speak, and I stand to be corrected, but I would say that for the level of service that would need to be given in terms of if we were to improve our garbage collection right across Jamaica, what we collect in property taxes would not be sufficient to run the NSWMA now. In fact, it is the case that the NSWMA is subsidized from the consolidated fund, even with the property taxes that we collect. That's a reality that you can't escape. So, as a government, just talking with the citizens so that we understand the magnitude of the problem, every Jamaican would also have to improve their payment of their property tax. Because that's the first point of call. That is, you not increase the property taxes, but you increase people's paying of the property tax, people's compliance. So, and I think that, the truth is that as people see the value that they are getting for the taxes that they are paying, the compliance would increase. So we are moving along in a very strategic way, trying to make sure that we balance all the challenges, but we're going to get there. We're going to make Jamaica a clean place, a place that we can all be proud of. But as the person who you have elected to do this, in a democracy, it takes reasoning with the people, explaining the issues, confronting people's long-held views and perceptions, and hopefully to shatter those and to bring people over to the understanding. And then as one country, we move forward. That takes time. It takes time. So I hope that today we would have moved a step closer to the social understanding that we need to have in order to transform our waste collection. I want to commend personally the recycling partners of Jamaica and all your stakeholders. Notice I didn't say shareholders, because you are pursuing a social objective. So I want to commend all the stakeholders who are businesses in their own right, but who are following the ESG model, the environmental, social, and governance model, in ensuring that whilst they meet their profit objectives for their shareholders, they also meet the social objectives for humanity. I'm very happy to see that you have increased your collection. Very, very happy to see. But bear in mind that it's about 2 billion bottles that you have to collect. So you still have, Mr. Chairman, a long journey to go. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. Much food for thought. We don't want you to move just yet because we have a special presentation for you. And I'd like to invite our board member, Caroline Mafood, to hand over a little token. It's a piece from Craig Fong Sang. And we hope you, we hope you like it. Thank you very much. And may I invite another board member, Emma Lewis, to come with another presentation. And Minister Samoda, would you join us at the podium, please? Watch it. Thank you very much. We heard the Prime Minister talk about a special allocation to support public education, and I believe that is so important. There's someone here with us this afternoon who has been a part of the Recycling Partners of Jamaica Public Education Program through the jingle that I think we all know and we all sing from time to time. I hear the children singing it all the time, so it means that, you know, it's a good fit. And I'd like to invite him just before we close and do the ribbon cutting and the tour of the facility. I'd like to invite him to come and just give us a little troops. Put your hands together and welcome Agent Sasko.
Yeah, massive.
Thank you. Blessings. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Prime Minister, Ministers, Chairman, General Manager, ladies and gentlemen, enough respect. Now, even though I'm not wearing a hat today I'm wearing many hats. First as a Jamaican, then as a Jamaican who's passionate about recycling and the environment, and then as an ambassador for RPG, and I can tell you all my hats are happy today because this is a good thing. Yes, round of applause. Remember, Prime Minister said it. Camera don't say the nods, round of applause. No, this is a good thing. And here's why it's an extra good thing for me, because having had this conversation many times about what we can do, as the Prime Minister pointed out, some of the times immediately you're met with, why that can't work or why that idea is not a good idea. This is a good thing because see it there, right? So it's a physical thing. It's not an abstract idea that anybody needs to buy into. It's here, it's done, and it's ready to go. Round of applause again. Yes. That may I say. Now, well, Dr. J, don't play it. So, as we say in Jamaica, the first two words in our anthem is what? Eternal Father, right? And then, remember one time in our Sunday school, them tell me, say, cleanliness is next to? Yes, so if Jamaica is an eternal Father, then see that the cleanliness will go along with it. So round of applause to that again. And remember, the place of the clean, PET, that a polyethylene, HDPE, buckle of get screen, be able to granny everybody roping, you got to go green, you know what I mean. See the sign pan the bin, if you drop it in through car window, you fling, that another thing. No, I have to stop right there, so. Listen, the people, they might throw the things them out of them car window, and me alone. Play that here, Dr. Dre. Yeah. So I come to my place named Kentire, right beside the old river there, so. And one of the things that we see with garbage collecting in general is that the rivers become the avenue by which the buckle them make them way to the seaside. And one of the beach cleanups, where I start upstream, So the one and then, I'm on a set. We put your first and second and third. Watch your blessings come forth. Blessings come forth. Yes, it is a miracle for make your thing shatter and end up a gun coat. End up a gun coat. Say, oh yes, coming up on the banks of the hope. We never give up and we never lose hope. Say we never sell out. You can take it on the an album launch. Pull up. So, I can do one more and I can go on now. Come and say, what I said, do one next tune. One more? Even just one more? Okay, Dr. J makes up for me now. Well, it's another one. I remember saying, who God bless? Yes. I'm gonna say, the Almighty I protect me. I said, the Lord will not forsake me. Say, what you're not gonna make me suffer by the hands of the wicked. When some wicked out to mine and wicked, we no fear if they make me. Tell them so, I God not forsake me, you Jamaican. Say, you're not gonna make me suffer by the hands of the wicked. And then the argument said, they want to be big things, they know them can't. Them can't do nothing because of us sound the chant. The Lord's my shepherd, I shall not want. Jamaica be the blessing because I good things to plant. He maketh me to lie by the still waters. What I protect you from my perils and disasters. Yeah, do with your walk to the valley of the shadow of death. No time in Africa, cause Jah will protect me. Oh, the Lord will not forsake me. We say, Jana, don't make me suffer. Yeah, because the workers and blah. Says, no fear if they make me. Tell them so, I got not forsake me. Tell them so, Jana, don't make me suffer by the hands of the wicked. Oh yes, we call upon the Father in the time of trouble. We call upon the Father because it's rough in the struggle, but although things sticky, we keep the pride, and the Lord provides, so we put always a bubble. Stay by my side and not leave me alone. Him always dead a yell in the war zone. He make David slew Goliath with a sling and a stone. My Jamaican massive, I love you to the bone. The Almighty I protect we. Oh, the Lord will not forsake we. Say, Jana, go make me suffer. Yeah, you can bust a blank. I'm going to say the camera don't see the nods and everything. Let us love and respect. Blessings.
One more time for Agent Sasko. He knows how to put plastic in its place among many other things. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it really has been a pleasure for me to just take us through this afternoon. We've had much food for thought. We've had an insight in what has gone on and what's to come. And I know that you're all advocates and that you will be part of, you know, it's almost like a religion. You get involved, you become fervent. So I hope we leave here with that fire in our belly to impact each and every one that we come in contact with, because we have to do this for Jamaica, land we love. I'm going to invite our Prime Minister at this time to proceed, along with our chairman and other members seated here on the front row, to do the ribbon cutting, and then we will have a tour of the plant, and of course later on we will have some refreshments on the outside. So, Mr. Prime Minister, you're taking the lead along with our chairman and other members for the ribbon cutting that we will do after 3. Please go ahead. Our Prime Minister, along with MP Jackson, Minister Samuda, our chairman, our general manager. Can we ask the ladies from our board, Emma, please go right ahead. We would like to ensure that the gender bias is not as evident in this photograph. So just go under, slip under. And we're going to do this after 3. That's a huge scissors, Mr. Prime Minister. You've got it? Okay. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Mrs. Willis, Operations Manager, I believe, is going to lead the tour.